Welcome guys! Today we're going to do a build setup for our Hyllus diarrhea that we just picked up recently. So I have a couple of our tarantula crib switches, the small switches here, with the canopy tops. So I'm going to set those aside. I'm actually going to set one of these full enclosures aside and move our spiders out of the way. And we're going to do kind of a tropical setup, because they do require quite a fair bit of moisture for them to mold properly and just be happier. They require about 70%, 75% humidity, which is hard to obtain in a normal household. So what I'm thinking we're going to do is we're going to do what I've done in the past with a dirt background, a soil background with some nice live plants and things like that, and go from there. Use a couple branches, some live plants, some leaves and botanics, just to make them feel hopefully at home a little bit better. But we're gonna get started here, guys. Gonna add some water to the soil mix, which is peat moss, black earth, a little bit of sand, and a little bit of our springtail clay to kind of hold everything together a little bit better. I'm turning it into essentially a paste, making a mud pie like I'm a kid again. Here. And then I'm going to press it to the back wall of my enclosure once I get the right consistency. So we're making a bit of a mess here. So I'm gonna lean my enclosure back. I'm gonna put some of this dirt, mud mix in, and I'm just gonna press it really hard, super tight to that back wall. Might actually end up laying it down, just for the ease of things, ease of you guys seeing, ease of me seeing as well. It's gonna get a little bit messy. Wish there was an easier way to film this. Actually, I got little hands, so I can fit through the doorway, so you guys can get a better view. I'm gonna keep pressing this clay down, or the substrate mix down. So I've made it about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch thick in most places, because I'm hoping that by using this, it will help keep the humidity higher for me. I'm gonna keep adding it until we get to the top lip, and let that kind of sit like that. It's a little bit messy right now, so I'm gonna grab another container, that same soil mix. I'm not gonna get it wet this time, and I'm gonna lean it back and kind of pour it in, so that it falls down the face of our wall until I get it to about the level that I want. So what I'm thinking is I'm gonna just below the door, because the deeper your substrate layer is, the better you're going to be able to keep humidity with these guys. And I've set out a couple of sticks, one for each tank, which I'm going to add in. These aren't going to be overly complicated setups, guys, because the animals are still in quarantine, but because of their interesting care requirements, I didn't want to keep them in a sterile environment for very long unless I had to. So I've got some frosty tip fern here that I've grown at home. I picked this up at a local garden center. It usually sells around the Christmas holidays at time, but I like how tall it grows. So I'm going to tuck that kind of in towards the back, press it in. The trick to growing the fronds is you want to make sure they do have some roots, or you're going to have a lot of difficulty with them. They don't really like being swapped. And then I have what they commonly call wire vine over here that I'm also going to snip a couple of cuttings from. And these guys I'm not too fussy with. They're a super hardy plant. Does really well in more moist environments. We've got a pair of our tweezers, just so that I can get that plant down to the bottom at least. So I'm hoping to get the cut end more towards the soil to give it a better chance of rooting in. Plug in that last one right at the base of the frosty fern. Then I have our tattoo wash bottle that I'm going to use to kind of give everything a bit of a water. A bit of a spray down. I do want to clean up this acrylic a little bit better. You're probably asking, what are we going to use for a hide? So, I am working on building a couple of botanical hides. I just forgot them when we went to make this video. So those will be an added feature that we'll probably add some clips of in at this point, I'm assuming. But I also like to add springtails, because springtails help keep mold down, keep things a little bit cleaner. So this is our clay culturing now. I'm just going to tap some of these guys inside of our enclosure to let them kind of get in there and do their things for me. Do some tidy up. The other convenient thing, we're going to add some leaf litter, because the more leaf litter you have, the slower your substrate's going to dry out. So if you have a nice thick layer of it, yeah, I know I'm kind of crushing some of the plants that I just planted in there, but they'll come around. Not a big deal. I've got mud everywhere here that I desperately need to clean up, so I'm going to have to switch this angle for you guys for a minute. Just while I get inside the door crack and things like that to tidy it up a bit. Just so that when I slide that door in, I'm not just smushing a bunch of dirt in between, making even more of a mess for myself to deal with later. On the next one, we're going to put the door when we put the dirt in, so that we don't get all the mud mixed in. But we learn as we go. Usually how I kind of do these, never really built a dirt wall background in one of a tank this small. So we're learning it together as we go here. So that one's done for the time being. Gonna add our canopy to it. Gonna slide our door back on. It is a little bit messy still, so it's gonna need a little bit of a dress up before I do put the animal in, because it's gonna bug me. But for now, we're gonna set that aside. And we're going to move our stuff. We're going to get our next enclosure, or whichever one it turns out to be. We're gonna go through the same steps with the clay dirt mix background. Gonna take a lot of it, put it in, press it to our back wall. So as long as it stays moist, like damp, from your misting and things like that, it will stay on the wall, I've learned. You can mix this without the clay. You can mix the excavator clay in if you wanted, or the Exoterra Desert Blend clay into your substrate. The clay just adds a little bit more of structural integrity, I've learned. If you don't have availability to our product of the springtail clay to add to it, those are both perfectly fine too. Just don't add too much. You don't need an abundance of it. As you can see, you can't even tell that this has clay in it. It just looks like standard black earth. So we're just kind of pressing it to the wall, keeping it all tight. Again, I want to bring it up to this upper edge, just to give them doesn't only serve as a climbing surface for the animals, it also gives our plants a chance, something to root into, and the plants will give us more humidity as we go too. So it's a little bit dry, this batch, so I'm just spraying it down. A little bit of water to it. Looks a lot cleaner. I don't have that dirt in the tracks this time. Much easier to work with. And we're gonna do the same thing. Just pour some of our dry dirt mix. You could do an AVG mix, you could do Zoomite Repti soil if you wanted. Heck, if you wanted to, you could do cocoa fiber. It's just be wary that cocoa fiber will dry out rather quickly. That's why I don't like to use it in situations like this where I want to keep some moisture. I'm gonna pull our front off, this point because I'm not playing with any more dirt. I got a couple more fronds of our frosty fern friend, who I'm going to hopefully get to turn around so that it actually plugs into the soil. Don't think that one's going to work. Pretty sure I might have just killed him by accident by snapping him. Going to add another one. So just use my tongs and my finger to make sure he gets a nice little plug in there. They have these little aerial roots that they've sent out, like that one there. And that's when I know I can take a clipping below that, and those roots will help the plant adjust and grow properly for me in its new environment. So this fern is kind of strange for a Celigania. It grows super tall, just basically straight up fronds. I like it for that reason. I'm hoping it adds a lot of depth to this tank with the placements that I've put. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take a couple of cuttings of our wire vine and just kind of plop them in there. You always want to make sure you get a growth tip rather than just a blunt or a cut edge, I guess, from our previous cuttings. So I try to look for where a nice growth tip is and just snip it off. Plant's fine. And then we're just going to do the same thing. Give it a little bit of water so that everyone gets to adjust in half decently. I'm going to not use that paper towel because it's gross. Take our clean paper towel. Just try to get as much of this loose soil off as possible, because it's gonna it just looks bad. And I don't really want to go in here once the animals are in as much as possible to let them adjust and settle in. I don't want to stress these animals. I know they're wild caught. So letting them adjust with their own given time is better than not. So there's still going to be a bit of dirt on the walls and things, but I'm kind of happy with where it is now, because as I spray the tank, it's going to knock that stuff down and we won't have to worry too much about it. So I'm going to put our girl in the one that we just finished. I couldn't decide there which one was going to go in which. So we're going to have fun with that. So again, as I said, I don't really want to stress these animals any more than I have to. So we're going to try and get her to just coach her inside. Just gently use the paintbrush to try and get her to not climb on it. Okay, apparently we're coming onto the paintbrush. Hello. She's a very pretty lady, deciding to pose for the camera today. Remarkable gold color. I absolutely love these spiders. They're just gorgeous. I'm really hoping that we get a nice, long-lived, and hopeful successful breeding from these guys. They are a very strong jumper. Like, they can jump a long distance. So I'm gonna keep my hand over top until I know where the canopy is. The other trick to this is going to be making sure that she doesn't act silly and try to jump when I go to put the canopy on, or get any of her legs pinched. So there she is, happily in her new home. We're going to set her off to the side and let her settle in. Like I said, I do have a couple of hides that I am building for them. I actually don't think I have springtails for that one, which is regrettable now. I will do that after. Take the canopy off while we get our boy ready, prepared to go into his new home. So because they require more humidity They have minimal ventilation on these cups. We're going to sort of coach him. At this point, we have had the boy out once because he wanted to come out when I went to feed him yesterday. We're just going to coach him into his enclosure. Come on. Nope. Let's go. Down and in. Thank you, friend. Nope. No, 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 no. Come on. Back up. Good boy. Try and get a shot looking straight down on him, maybe. And big arms for wrapping around the female when they go to breed and things like that. But absolutely stunning spiders. Super excited to be working with them, and like I said, I hope that we have some successful breeding, so then we can provide you guys with some in the future. So there we have it, guys. Our quick setup builds for our Hyllus diardi. So again, these guys are new to us and they are wild caught, so I kept it very minimal to try and keep it clean and easy for them to find food and for us to keep it observing the animal to make sure that while they're in the quarantine process, nothing goes wrong. And if we can fix it, fix it. So that's usually one of our keys with trying to keep newer animals that come to us, or just wild caught animals in general. You want to make sure that they stay well hydrated and have access, or you're making sure that they're eating. So you want to make sure that it's not overly complicated, not too busy with things. So I left the upper portion of the enclosures very open because that's where they'll spend the majority of their time, and then I can make sure that they're eating and drinking again. But I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.